She never be pretending, not in this ring. She gon' tell you what she bought it.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome everyone to the eSpot with Camille. And today I have a very special eSpot exclusive where we're going to be talking to the co-chair and one of the participants of the Fatherhood Conference. The Fatherhood Conference is a yearly conference that is held pretty much in every city USA, but we also have one here special in Raleigh, North Carolina that's going to be a virtual one this year. So no matter where you are, you can join us as well. So I can't wait for you to meet my guest today. I have Derrick Byrd as well as Kevin Case joining me, and they're going to share a little bit more about the Fatherhood Conference and what everyone can expect by attending. So welcome, gentlemen. Thank you so much for being my guest today.
Well, thank you for having us.
It's
Thank
my
you. Thank you.
pleasure.
Excited.
My pleasure. It's not often that I get two dads to talk about fatherhood. And you guys have such an interesting way that you guys got connected to the Fatherhood Conference. So, Derrick, will you tell us first how you got involved being the co-chair? And then I can't wait to hear what got Kevin involved as well.
Sure. Well, my journey kind of really started for 20 years, nearly 20 years. I worked at Wake County Human Services here in Raleigh in child welfare. I was a supervisor and I was overseeing a unit that was working with children who were coming into the system and for foster care for abuse and neglect, and also investigating child protective services reports. And so back in the early part of the 2000s, mid 2000s, we had a mandate to better engage fathers in our child welfare program. So what we were often doing was, when we would go in and start a process with a family after we received a report, we would ask about dads, but dads were never really either in the home or mom really didn't know where dad was. Sometimes the children knew. And so, it was important that we work with both parents in that situation. So we had to make a concerted effort to uh, begin engaging and identifying dads. And so the agency, we led a task force to really figure out how we could better change our policies and practices to engage dads in the program and throughout the rest of the department. And so that kind of led to the Family Resource Center, which is the program, the agency that I'm now the executive director, but I'm a co-founding member. And so one of the things that we recognize is that government was not going to be able to really tackle this whole issue of how to better engage and identify dads. So I brought that work here to the Family Resource Center and to the executive director at that time. And so we were able to begin to really do more work in sustaining um, the recommendations that we had identified at Wake County Human Services, and we started doing the fatherhood conferences. So this conference has been going on since 2013, and as a result of that, we were also able to receive a $5 million 5-year grant from the federal government to actually institute a responsible fatherhood program here in Raleigh and Durham. So we really have been really entrenched in this fatherhood work since 2011. So we're just very glad and very proud of the work that we have done so far, and we're looking forward to even more great things to come in the future.
Now, I just want to touch on this for a minute. When you were working with social services and you had such a large amount of fathers that were either absentee dads or not in the picture, what was the main reason for that? Like, were you yeah, what's the main cause behind that, do you think, that
Well,
fathers are so quick to just kind of give up on being a father, I guess is
Well,
lack of
and
a better way.
what I would say is, I mean, typically in a lot of situations, even not just in social services,
Mm,
but in many other programs and services that work primarily with families, fathers are necessarily not the primary or the secondary parent that is engaged in that process. If you think about it, most of the programs are really more geared to moms. It's a maternally centric, system, and
mhm.
so dads never really were included or sought after
Or
in a lot of the
interjected
programs.
themselves. Like, they shouldn't have to get invites to be a father, right? Like, they
Well,
should just make
exactly,
that step
exactly.
themselves, I think, too. Yeah.
One of the things we always question is when we receive a case, when we open a case or service for a family, the name of the case goes into the mother's name, even if dad is in the
Mhm.
home. So that it's just again
It's like
the
a
culture and how things have always been set up for for dads not to really be engaged or involved at all. So it has to be intentional at this point
I think it
for
goes
that to
to
happen.
childhood, right? Because I
Yeah,
mean, girls are always taught how to be moms, but nobody really makes
nobody teaches
boys play with
boys how to
dolls so
be
they can
dads.
learn be dads, and
Right,
maybe that's the big change we need to also incorporate is that it's okay for boys to play with dolls so they can learn how to be good dads.
right.
Yeah,
So
well
one of the things that the conference does,
yeah.
as well as some of the other work that we do through the program, is to really highlight the fact of the importance of dads involved in
Mhm.
their children's lives, involved in the family, and for services and programs and other entities who want or are needing to serve dads, that they do that not as an afterthought, but that there is really some intention put behind wanting to work and include that so that you have a healthy family unit.
Yeah, and I think also with, companies, they need to really support dads. I know some companies now are giving paternity leave, but that was a big thing when only the mom gets to bond with the baby. It's hard for her to wanna let the dad be a dad too. He's like, "Oh, no, you're holding the neck wrong. You're doing it," or, whatever it may be, and
Mhm.
even the different classes a lot of times with breastfeeding or whatever it may be, they don't always include the dads, so the dads don't know their place.
That is
Although
correct.
my husband was one of those that he didn't wanna miss out. So but needless to say, I get it. So I just wanted to make sure that we explain both sides of like what can we do to change that narrative and make sure that fathers feel included and that also mothers feel supported, but more importantly, the child gets the best of both parents. And I love that you're
Absolutely.
doing this. So, Kevin, as a participant, what was the big thing that you gained from getting involved, or what did you feel you needed in order to even seek out getting involved in something like a fatherhood conference?
So I think it's one of those things that, when you become a father and you quickly realize that, what you maybe don't have or how ill prepared you are to become a father sometimes. And I was in a relatively unique situation where I was the primary caregiver and had sole custody of a 5-month-old child.
Mm,
So I was scrambling, trying to figure out exactly what do I need to do to nurture this child to be a good person. And through that series of events, I actually came across a program called the Day to Day Dads program, which is actually run out of Derrick's office. And that program really kind of opened my eyes to the things that we conceptualize as like a father figure that maybe we didn't have, and things like that, or the behaviors that we would want to provide to our children, and what the impact of those things are. Right. And in today's time, we don't really have the Huxtables and certain other shows that put that stuff on the forefront. Right.
mhm,
It's everybody's on YouTube, everybody's using TikTok, it's social media, it's short little clips, it's a couple minutes, but there's not that one person that's a constant thing that you can watch on TV like we had as children
yeah.
that can
I
kind of
remember
provide
Friday
that.
nights, right? It was
Exactly, right?
family
So
Friday night TV shows.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, when we start going over some of these exercises and we start highlighting characteristics of what we
Mhm,
think a good father is, and then we start to kind of self reflect like, am I displaying these characteristics to my children, right? Or
mhm,
my child? You quickly start to learn how impactful it is as a father, to be involved in the things that you can do for your children by just being present, right? And physically is being present is one thing, being emotionally and mentally present is a completely other thing.
yeah.
So that was one of the things as we started opening up that can of worms for me on a psychological level. um, I just got really excited about it, because I think we're all born with the ability to be, great fathers, or great parents in general, but I think that we really have to do the work to
Mhm,
become that person. And the one thing that was consistent through all of the classes that I've taken and most of the men that I meet and speak with is that they're scared to ask for help. They assume that they've got it figured out. They're like, oh, it's good enough. And while good enough is okay, we can all do better, right? And so as I've gotten more exposure and learned more about a lot of the things that are going into the mental health side of treatments of children coming out of homes with domestic violence and
mhm,
everything else that goes into that with trauma informed care, which is actually a big push now in the court system, which is great because it's much needed there. But as I get more exposure to it, I see somebody needs to stand up as a father and say, hey guys, there's nothing wrong with asking for help. There's nothing wrong with looking for assistance. Like, this is going to make you a better father, and it's just going to make your life better in general. I've learned so much that's helped me in my personal career by being a better parent, as far as having certain levels of empathy for situations before where I was like, we just got to get it done. I don't really care. Right. But now I'm like, okay, well, what's really the problem? Like, what's the hold up here? What do we need to do to figure this out? Um, so it just kind of makes you a better person, and we all want to be, a super dad or a super parent. But we have to do the work for it. You don't just wake up that person one day. Right. We're not all Clark Kent. We didn't come to this planet with those powers, right? We have to cultivate them and develop them. So,
And I think a lot of people just assume, even with women, that it's just a natural maternal instinct. And I would be the first to admit it wasn't a natural thing for me. Like, I read books to find out what do I need to do, and I had to watch a DVD on how to swaddle my daughter and all of this. Because I remember going in, I think my daughter was like 3 or 4 months, just going to La Leche League, like, I can't sleep. Help me. I don't, she's broken or I'm broken. Like, I just didn't understand what was going on. But I had a community of women that were there ready to teach me, ready to be, because they had been through it too. So I'm loving that men can have that same kind of nurturing or community that will help them be the best dads, because it's the children get so much from it. And I love what you were saying about, even with the trauma care of it all. Like, a lot of times people forget that these children are going through things too. And just because they may not express it the same way, or like depression's so different in children, it's tummy aches or different things, so on, that having those tools, being able to reach out and get help. And I just love this. So, were there, when you first started this program, Derrick, I wonder, how did, like, when you help others, it's like you're helping yourself. I don't know, like, giving on to others, it's even more, it's better than receiving, in my opinion. And so when you're giving all these opportunities for fathers to really be their best versions, how does that feel for you? Like, what do you get from it? What else do you want to achieve with that?
Well, one of the things we recognized when we started, when we had the opportunity to start Day-to-Day Dads program, is that, what we didn't think about is how we would be creating, a community of dads that really, were enthusiastic about being able to have those shared experiences with other dads. We start off with a 12-week curriculum, which is 24/7 dads. And so there's various sessions that kind of touches on various things about how to be a dad, and then, talking about grief and loss, talking about child development, talking about fathering and mothering, because there definitely is a distinct difference in how you parent, you know. Um, and so, and after each session, we really just more and more each week saw how dads really just became part of this community and really became very involved and engaged in just wanting to just come and talk and be, and felt safe to be able to talk about other things that were happening with them other than what was in the curriculum. And so we recognized that, there was just no space, to allow for this for fathers or males in general. And so, we really realized, that this was something that we really felt that we needed to be able to continue to do, as well as really, we felt really good about how we were really setting and creating that space for a lot of dads and fathers and males, in the area. We had the opportunity to be featured on CNN with Lisa Ling, because we were helping a lot of dads with a lot of their child support issues. And we really were really helping to develop and recreate those relationships that, men were having with their with the children's mother, even if they were non-residential fathers. There still was a need to learn how to co-parent and how to like each other, just, not necessarily for the sake of, parenting, but because it was just important to have that healthy relationship. So we were able to help, other men and, to go through those things and recognize, that it was important that they just really had the skill sets
Mhm.
to be able to create an environment that was healthy both for themselves, for the children, and for the parent, the other co-parent, the other parent that they're working with, if they were not living in the house. Um, and so the culmination of all of this really happens on Father's Day weekend when we have the conference, because again, we want to be able to celebrate amongst ourselves all of the achievements and all of the things that we know that we value as dads, and what we bring to the table and what we bring to the community every each and every day. um, and then it's also important to continue to raise that awareness within our respective communities. This just to say, we are here, we are important. I know it's a
Mhm.
cliche, but dads matter.
Hey,
And
hey, hey. No, I'm kidding.
and
They
you
do,
know
they do,
and
they do. I yeah, go ahead, sorry.
yeah, no, and I mean, and I just think that we have to continually, we have to learn to advocate for ourselves, and also, talk about how structures and systems have repeatedly, denied us and have kept us from really being our best selves, and we want to change that narrative.
Yeah. I mean, I know that there's that saying, hurt people, but I don't think a lot of times that's the case with some dads where they get the opportunity to not have to do anything, so they take it. Like maybe they're like, "Oh, she's using the child to get back at me," or "I'm paying child support, that's enough," or "I get him every other weekend," or whatever it may be. And I loved when Kevin was just even describing the fact how when we grew up, we had different shows that showed the importance of both parents being involved. I think a lot of times that's the case as well, is that if you don't see it, how can you do it? Like that whole saying, if you can achieve it, if you can dream it, you can achieve it. But if you never saw it, or if you didn't experience it within your own home, possibly, or now I think it's important that Hollywood really makes that change where they do show more families that have both parents, or even just represent the ideal of parenting, not necessarily the unideal, where it's a dead parent or absentee parent, and that's the narrative they keep perpetuating within
Exactly.
families, and even ignoring the fact that now we have LGBTQ families, and just
Right.
making sure everyone's represented so no one is getting bullied possibly at school and then repeating that same cycle in their own lives, because being a dad that's a mom's job, or being a parent is a mom's job, and putting it off on just that. And I'm curious what you think about that, Kevin, as far as like being a dad and feeling overlooked by Hollywood, in the sense that they just keep making it seem like it's all on the mom and you're doing it by yourself.
Yeah, I think that's a tough thing because I think single parents in general, it's a thankless job, right? Being a parent in general is a thankless job. Being a single parent, some certain people will give you accolades for that. I think mothers, it's expected. I think when people see fathers that are single fathers that have primary or sole custody of a child, there's always, oh, there's drugs, there's this, there's that. They don't necessarily know, or they passed away, right? There's a lot of assumptions that are made, but
Mhm.
when the single mom has a kid full time, nobody questions that, right? I think generally speaking, Hollywood's done a decent enough job with, I think, representing certain aspects of being a single father, right? Pursuit of Happiness was one of those movies that really kind of spoke to the struggles and challenges that you have trying to manage a child and work and provide. And I think one of the reasons we see, unfortunately, a lot of fathers not involved is because we're conditioned from a young age to provide, right? Our job is to go out and earn. And then
Mhm.
the courts enforce certain levels of financial support. There's certain thresholds you hit that it increases the amount of child support drastically. For instance, if you go from $1,500 a month to 1,501, all of a sudden your obligation just went up almost $800 to make an extra dollar, right?
Mhm.
And it's because you passed a certain line of poverty for them to take a little extra money. And it's frustrating because the money actually doesn't go as far as people need it to provide for the child. Um, and people go to that point where they're like, I just got to work because I got to pay my child support, right?
Mhm.
A lot of fathers in the education side of what Derrick was talking about earlier is we really want to make sure that fathers understand the legal system in modern times is not necessarily 100% against you the way that everybody feels that it is, right?
Mhm.
You have to go in knowing the process. You have to behave accordingly. right? Our children a lot of times are kind of dangled in front of us, and we're threatened that we're not going to see them unless we do certain things, and that's very stressful, right? To think that you're not going to see your kid for some arbitrary reason is scary, right? Like you have to mind your P's and
Mhm.
Q's to a certain level beyond the norm, right? Because the court can jump in. I know I've dealt with the legal system threatening to take my child and put him into CPS,
Mm.
into the custody of CPS. And, I don't necessarily understand why that would even be a factor, but it's happened. It's been a threat by a seated judge in court.
Mm.
Um, that's major, right? And you're not supposed to respond to that. You can't get upset. You can't show anger, right? Even though somebody's trying to take your most prized possession from you, right? So it's just working on helping people understand that the justice system is doing the best that they can. They don't have all the information readily available to them. They're going to put you through trials, right? Through taking classes, showing up, getting therapy, or doing whatever it is that you have to do. Just do it, you know?
Yeah.
I think our system was built with the mindset of past times, right? Where nowadays most people are dual income families. You can't really, most people aren't moving back home with their kids as much. They're trying to be independent. Everybody wants an independent lifestyle. So you've got kids that are living at home with mom, but still going to daycare because she has to work. Once again, child support is really just not enough to cover average
Mhm.
cost of living in Wake County. I know.
Mm.
So it's a struggle, and it's a bunch of different systems, and it's a lot of different things that we've kind of been raised on that have stayed in law practice for a long time. And there's not a lot of education out there for fathers. I mean, this is, I've even still now that I think there's one or maybe two domestic violence shelters for men. Most every other
Mm.
hundreds of them throughout the country are for females. So there's it's stressful when you find yourself in certain situations where you can't find help, or the help that you find turns you away because your gender, right? And then when you go to ask for certain things as a father, um, there's not the support really there, right? Like you said earlier, you had a community of women that were willing to jump out and help. um, Unfortunately, men just aren't wired that way, right? There's some of us that want to get out and help and do everything we can to bring awareness to this stuff. um, Show people, hey, it's actually really cool to be a dad. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like, I love it. I rock out. I'm in the middle of Target singing with my son that's 3 years old. You know what I mean? Like, we have a ball. Like, I get to be a kid. I get to wear stuff like this and
Oh,
nobody can
wow.
question me,
Yes.
because I'm a dad. I didn't want to
Yeah.
come in here like dressed up nice. I was like, no, I got to keep it real and be true to
Gotta keep it
myself. This is my
PG-13.
this is my life. I'm in sweat shorts and a shirt. This
Yeah.
is dad life right here. But this is good. I get to be a kid again. I get to enjoy every moment with my son and make sure that he's staying in a way that's making him resilient. He's understanding of his emotions and can regulate
Mhm.
himself even at 3 years old. I mean, it's amazing to be a father, and I think there's a lot of people that don't get the chance to necessarily be a father. Because like you said in the beginning, there's not a lot of time that fathers get to take off, right, from
Mhm.
work, and they have to
Mhm.
provide. So you're
Mhm.
missing a lot of that early time to bond with the child,
Mhm.
right? And the other part of this goes back to the twofold portion of education is that, we're not even taught as men how to be supportive to our women after birth of a child, right?
Mhm.
They may teach you how to do certain things to help support certain aspects of it, but I didn't know about postpartum depression. I didn't know about a lot of other things until it was way later,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I didn't really know how to support my son's mother in the way that I needed to. I did what I thought I had to do, which was support, right? Go out and work. I just had to figure it all out. We were down in income and I had to make up the difference. So I wasn't necessarily as present in those first few months as I wish I could have been. But once again, I was stuck in that whole thing that we're talking about now,
Mhm.
right? And I was fortunate enough to be able to break the mold and be, present in my son's life pretty much every day, and start to learn how to unlock my superpowers as a father, and then really try to get people excited about, what it is to be an actual dad, what it is to be there for your son, then to think about when my son gets older and he has a worry or a concern, and I'm the first person that he comes to, putting in that
Mhm.
legwork today so I don't question why he didn't ask me later. Is the part of being a father that I like, because you're investing into something that's going to pay a world of dividends in the future, that no amount of money will ever be able to replace or give you.
I couldn't have said it better myself. That's a beautiful sentiment, and I implore all dads to feel this way. I hope all dads feel this way, just empowered. I love that you said it was a superpower being a dad because I'm right there with you. I got to relive my childhood with my daughter because she enjoyed a lot of the same things I liked as a kid, and I didn't have any parent telling me no anymore when I went to Toys R Us. Yeah, let's swipe it. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, and
Not that
that's
bad.
that's
Yeah.
the dangerous part. But and I
Yeah.
will say this too: there is a group where actually this is it right here.
Okay.
Placement of product here or whatnot. But Wake County has a workplace. Actually, let me read it off. Child abuse prevention plan is what they're calling it, but it's basically built around establishing programs within the workplace that help reduce child abuse in the home. And one of the things that we've discussed in that group was making sure that fathers get time off during a
Mhm.
pregnancy, right? So that they can be there to support the wife because nobody's sleeping, right? So you're
Yeah.
trying to work, you're getting 2 hours of sleep a night and, off and on. So nobody's
We
actually
did
working at
separate bedrooms
optimal.
because I couldn't take it. I was like, "How are you sleeping through her crying?" So you go in the other room if you're not going to wake up when she cries. But he had a split shift schedule, whatever, and so I was trying to be understanding of the fact that I didn't want him to die at work either if he didn't get sleep. And
Yeah.
so, but at the same time, it was just like, "How dare you sleep while I can't?"
Yeah, but
Very
that's the thing
violent
though.
feelings.
But, I mean, if
Yeah,
imagine
but
if he could have taken off of work and y'all could have balanced that, how much easier
yeah.
life would have been, right? But we're not
Mhm.
allowed that opportunity with most employments.
He was only allowed a
Employers that offer.
2 days off, and I had to have a C-section, so I had to carry my daughter around to all of her doctor's appointments, all of her things, all of the things after she was born. It was pretty miserable, I would have to say, and I didn't blame him. I just, that's the way the work goes. In order for the insurance to cover having the daughter, he had to work a certain amount of days that week, and so I mean, but that whole process is ridiculous because it doesn't take one parent to make a baby, and it doesn't take one parent to take care of a baby. So they should allow. I'm glad a lot of companies now are realizing the importance of fathers and getting that time off with offering paternity leave and just even with FMLA where they give them more time to kind of use it as they need it. Because I'm not my father. My husband recently was on medical leave and he was off for 2 months, and this was the first time he was ever able to go to a parent teacher conference in the 13 years she's been alive or going to school. So, well, not 13 years. She's only 12, but he wasn't able to because you can't take off just for a 1 hour meeting, like, and they never could plan it the same day. He's already getting it off for physicals or other things. And that's the thing, like you mentioned, that a lot of times fathers are only given the idea that they're just the breadwinner and not also the support system or the coach. Or I like that. Although rest in peace, Kobe Bryant, he kind of brought in that whole girl dad movement. And so many fathers were like excited about having daughters. And even that part of it, I just was like, oh, I like this movement. Keep it going, keep it going. And let's see what else we can bring with it. Because girl dads and boy dads, they're all dads. And just being excited about being a father, I think is great. So let us all in, us mothers too. What you guys do in this conference? I see all the different classes and things. I'm like, I need to know some of this stuff. So share, tell us, what are we missing out over there?
Well, you're missing out a lot. And what is so interesting is, this is officially our seventh, but we're calling it the eighth because we were unable to have it last year.
Okay.
But we often are asked from women if they could attend because we recognize again that women also who are single parents are playing both roles. And so for a while early on, we were, kind of really discouraging women
Yeah,
um,
y'all need your
to
safe
attend
place.
because,
I
again,
get
we
it.
really wanted to make this a kind of a space for men. But then we
Mhm.
begin to realize, because then what we were hearing from a lot of the men who were attending was that a lot of them were there because their wives made them come. So we said, okay, well, now this is a partnership we need to nurture. So the last couple of conferences, we have included a couple of workshops specifically for women on how they could, be more supportive of their, of the dads in the
Yes. Oh,
home
that's
or out of
great.
the home,
Yeah.
and what role they play in um, creating that, those relationships with their children.
Mhm.
Mothers need to recognize the fact that they are gatekeepers. And so
Mhm.
that, they really have the opportunity to restrict or to encourage or to provide access and allow dads to have as much engagement and involvement as possible. In trainings that I do with a lot of different groups, and I talk about the role of gatekeepers, and I
Mhm.
always talk about both children and parents and mothers are gatekeepers, because oftentimes, in situations where moms, want to handle situations themselves and don't necessarily engage dad because they don't want, because they know how we're going to come in and do things. And sometimes they just don't want us to come in and do that. They want to kind of, keep us at bay. Then I always tell the story about how children can also be gatekeepers as well, because, I have two sons. And so, when they were younger and they were coming home, with all of these flyers about McDonald's night and Chick-fil-A night and all these other fun things, those were the first things I saw. And then when I get then when I'm not told about parent teacher night or some other, something that is specifically around their academic performance, I would find those flyers in the bottom of their book bag and never got them, So
I
not,
wonder
so
why.
they're gatekeepers too.
Yeah, yeah.
But so we try very hard to make sure that we are providing as much content as possible for dads, but we also recognize that we're not in this alone, so that we
Mhm.
have moms, and that we have youth too. This year we actually are doing youth track workshops for youth. So our conference is actually on June 19th. It is a virtual conference. It starts from 8:30 to 1:30. And so we have an array of workshops that we're providing. They focus a lot on, of course, we have co-parenting workshops. We have workshops that deal with, fathers who are coming out of prison, and what that work is like, in reentering both their community and their families. The
Mhm.
relationship with their children may or may not be present at that point. So we talk about the importance of that. You talk about how the church and faith, how what their involvement and their impact is on fatherhood. We have workshops that deal with finances. We have workshops that just deal in general, like one of our 24/7 dad workshops, what it means to be a man. Because I think what most folks forget is that fathers are men first,
Mhm.
and so our experiences as men is always going to play out in our parenting and in our, in how we fathering.
Mhm.
So we talk about that, and so we just have a number of workshops that really speak to, the experiences that fathers and men just have, naturally. In the past, we have always had great celebrity speakers. I will say the last conference in 2019, we had Malik Yoba, who everyone knows,
From New York Undercover.
yeah.
That's what I
We
remember him from. I'm sure he's done things since then, but that's what
Oh
I
yeah.
always remember
Well,
him
yeah. I mean,
from.
yeah. So,
Yeah.
and we've had a mixture. We've had Dominique Wilkins. I just saw he was in the news again about
Mm.
the situation with the restaurant. We've had Roland Martin. We've had
He's my
Common.
twin.
So we've had a number of celebrity keynote speakers. And so one year, I want to say 2018, we actually had Lavelle Moten, who is the head basketball coach at
At
North Carolina
NCCU. Yeah,
University.
that's my
And the
school.
feedback, yes, and the feedback we got from the men at the conference was that they felt that that was the best speech that they had coming from somebody who was local. So we really felt that, we have a
Yeah.
lot of talented and engaging people, folks here in North
Yeah.
Carolina. So we didn't want to have to necessarily, fly somebody in who was well known. And what we learned is that, guys weren't necessarily coming because they were attracted to who was the keynote. They're attracted to the workshops, the camaraderie, the networking,
Mhm.
so that's what we really try to focus on.
And I
But
want
this
to
year,
say, oh god.
yeah, so this year we are very fortunate to be able to have two great speakers.
Mm.
James White, who was formerly the executive vice president at the YMCA of the Triangle, he's now taken on a new position where he's heading up an equity initiative out of Minnesota, but he's still here in North Carolina, and he pastors a church here. It's the church, Christ Our King Church in Garner. And so James is a phenomenal speaker. He comes with a lot of different experiences and backgrounds, and so we are really looking forward to his message to dads. He being a dad himself, and Dr. Terrence Roos, who's kind of been a mentor. I've been his mentor. Um, and Terrence has had a lot of experiences in his young life as well. He has worked with Reverend William Barber. He was the
Mm.
former state director of the NAACP. He was an administrator here in Wake County Public Schools. He's now a professor at NC State, and he also just has a quite an array of
I
of
went there too.
experiences.
Yeah.
He's always been a part of the conference. He's always kind of done our racial equity training for at the conference. So he's now stepping up as the plenary speaker for the morning. And so we have Micah Mason, who is also a former um, um, local pastor, and he guest DJs on the Light FM on Sunday evenings.
Mm.
He has his own business. He is the father of four daughters, so he's going to be our master of ceremonies. So we're just really looking forward to a great conference. The experience of being virtual is going to be new to us, but we're really looking forward, hopefully in 2022, to get back to being in a physical space, because I think again, we really thrive on just being amongst each other, being able to talk with each other, being able to laugh and cry together, and just kind of just celebrate us. And I think that really is what makes the conference really great. We have become the fourth largest conference in North Carolina. I mean, in across the country. And so we definitely want to be able to continue that thread of giving and providing a very motivational and educational and informative conference, and it will be open to anybody across the country this year. So we look
Yeah.
forward
Or
to
around the
seeing
globe if you're virtual, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
So it is a free conference. It is free this year, and we you could access the registration site by going to ncfatherhood.com, and you'll be able to register and see all the workshops that are being offered.
Fantastic. So, any parting words from you, Kevin, about the sorry, I'm now about to getting all tongue tied. The Fatherhood Conference. Try to say that 5 times. Fatherhood Conference. Fatherhood Conference. Oh, it's not that bad. Okay, Fatherhood Conference.
Yeah, I mean, I think anybody that's a father or looking to be a father at any point should attend. I mean, it's information and a group of people that care about their children. You'll be welcomed, right? I think it's like Derrick said, having a place where the people that actually care and want to be a good parent are going to show up. So you'll be in a crowd of people of like mind and that care about children in general. I mean, if you want to be a good father, it's not because obviously care about your kid, but you also care about children in general. And when you find yourself in those areas, it's quite powerful and highly motivating to continue doing whatever it is that you need to do. There's several fathers I've met over the last few years that I've been doing this work that don't have access to their children for whatever reason, right? And they're fighting the system to try to gain access, and COVID has made that even worse. Dragging out, the court system and things like that, where things were shut down for almost a year, pushing dates. There's been judge changes. There's like so many things that have happened, and it's just pushing and pushing and pushing, and it's really testing, the will of these men to like, what do I do? I can't afford to keep paying attorneys to do nothing and wait. Like, how do I keep going? Um, and I think when you get around these groups of people, there's a wealth of knowledge, right? Like whatever your circumstances, you're not alone, right? If you're dealing with depression or some type of anxiety or PTSD or anything, you're not alone, right? If you're not able to see your kids, you're not alone. If you only see your kids every other weekend, you're not alone. Come to these sessions that are available to you. Meet the people that are going to have the basically provide you with the support and confidence to know that, hey, look, man, like I can get through this. I'm truly not alone in any of this stuff. You're not, uniquely special in the sense that you've been dealt a worse hand than someone else. Like there's a lot of people that are struggling to be good fathers. There's fathers that are amazing fathers, and they're part of this group as well. And a lot of us have our stories and our history. Come out, talk. Um, learn more about what we're doing in the community, learn about some of this stuff. I'm also a co-chair for a parent advisory council with Safe Child, which is a child advocacy group here in Wake County. And there's programs that they offer as well that are great, especially for fathers that are learning how to connect with their children and understand the cycles that they're going through. There's several other programs and stuff that they offer that I think are great for mothers and single parents, or parents in general. So just come out. You'll be surprised to what you'll learn. You'll meet and make new friends. We're all dads. We like to cook. We like to have a good time. We like to have fun and listen to music. And we all have a common goal with raising our kids right. So
Yeah.
come out and
Increase your village, right? It takes a village to raise a child. Now you have a bunch
Exactly.
of dads to get knowledge from, get advice from, or
Mhm.
if they went through the terrible twos or the teenage years, they can help out with that too. Or if you're not so good at basketball, maybe they can help coach for you. Share responsibilities amongst dads. I love it. So,
Yeah, and that's actually one of the things we've talked about too before. Is like a lot of single mom homes.
mm,
Just going as a man. If you have a neighbor that's a single mom, and she has kids that are running around playing, just go out and play with them, right? Like
mhm.
they love the attention of having a male figure around as well. So
I
you.
cannot reiterate that enough because I volunteer a lot at my daughter's school. And when the dads show up for lunch with their children, the way those kids are beaming, like my dad's here. You cannot replace that excitement and joy. It's completely different. Moms, we have our moments. I won't say we don't, but when you see how excited these kids are when their dads surprise them, it's completely different. And I want to go back a little bit because you mentioned something about with men just coming out of prison and getting reintegrated. I would even say, like with military men, that's a real issue, or even with policemen in this sense, where that
Yes.
overly toxic male persona they have to wear for work, it's hard for them to transition and be soft and cuddly with their children sometimes because of their career and just maybe in that same process, or maybe even helping the prisoners in that sense, where they can kind of work together on really trying to be the best dads for their children because
That is correct.
it
That
is
is
a
correct.
marathon.
Yeah. But what we find, and things are starting to change really slowly. But
Mhm.
again, as we talk about how systems and institutions have basically really have put these barriers up and really
Mhm.
have impacted, how fathers engage and involve, in their families. When a dad is incarcerated, there really isn't any process or there isn't anything in place that helps to continue the relationship or build the relationship between he and his children. So it's only been very recent, and when I say recent, probably within the last 15 to 20 years, where there's now been, a number of states are really instituting, programs and opportunities for dads who are incarcerated to be able to have, those opportunities to visit with their children and build those relationships, even prior to them coming out of prison, and
Mhm.
then being able to cultivate those and strengthen those relationships when they come out. So, here at the Family Resource Center, we have a reentry program, and so we always make it a part of making sure that that program and our day-to-day dad program are interrelated, so that those men who are coming out of incarceration, we also provide them those services, and we have also gone into some of our North Carolina prisons and actually have done some curriculum training and helped to prepare, those guys for re I guess reconnecting with their children once
Mhm.
they're out. And we had in the situation, and it's kind of on. We have it on our website where we had a group where we actually went into one of the prisons and we were working with a group of guys, a group of men. And one of the men was going to be released at some point. And when he got released, the day he got released, his wife and his children went to meet him and brought him and met him at the prison. They came directly to our office because that's how much of an impact the day-to-day dads program had
Oh,
on him,
wow.
and he wanted to come and officially register to continue the program. And I mean, the executive director was just ecstatic
Yeah.
that, we have, we get little nuggets like that where, it really does make a difference, to dads, who are able to participate in programs and services that really caters just to them and speaks to them. And I mean, and he was very clear to us about the fact that he wanted to make sure that he came to our office when he got out that day. So that was just a moment that we all shared. But again, it's just important to be able to have those opportunities, for men like him and for everyone else that needs that support.
No, that's a great story to end on. Is there any, how can everyone keep in contact or find out more about Fatherhood Conference? I know you mentioned the website, but will you mention it again? And if they wanted to follow you as well, if you can give that information as well.
Sure. So you can follow me at Family Resource Center South Atlantic, at Derrick Byrd, and the website is frcsa.org. And you can also access us through the North Carolina Fatherhood Conference website. And again, that website is ncfatherhood.com. And there's a number of programs on the website, other fatherhood programs and resources, as well as the conference. And so, and I can be reached up at, I can get the phone number, which is 919-834-9300, and you can reach me at extension 101. And so I'll be more than happy to speak with anyone, or we can hook you up with anything that you need.
Sounds great. And how about for you, Kevin?
So I really work in partnership to kind of really help with anything that I can, with Derrick and team there, as well as with Safe Child. So, if you're reaching out to Derrick, you could get a hold of me. And if you're wanting to see what we're doing at Safe Child, you can check us out at safechildnc.org. You can see the programs that are offered there and the things that we're working on through the Parent Advisory Council, and things as we continue to get that ramped up, because that's new as well. So, but I'm also a full-time self-employed entrepreneur. So I kind of keep pretty busy with that stuff outside of being a father to my son and remarried with 3 additional kids. So house full of 6 now. Yeah, it's good. Blended family
Blended
life is good.
family life. We'll
Yeah.
have to talk about that another time because that's a whole new story.
So you got my email. Hit me up.
All right. Well, thank you both so much for being my guest today. I can't tell you how much I enjoyed this conversation and just hearing all of the wonderful things that you're doing here in our community, especially for dads, our parents, and children. So thank you so much. And happy Father's Day to both of you
Thank
and to
you.
all the
Thank you.
fathers watching, because this will air before Father's Day, but so we can make sure people can make it to the conference. So again, thank you everyone for watching. And you can follow me at CamilleCower.com or at The Real Camille Cower on Instagram, CK on Air 1 on Twitter. Thanks again for tuning in to the eSpot with Camille. And this has been so much fun. And make sure you share with your friends. Let them know where to find out the latest and greatest of information from the eSpot.